If you're looking to learn the latest skills in no code and AI, you have to check out nocodealliance.org. No matter if you're just starting out or if you're a seasoned pro and looking to specialize even further, we have courses at all levels and in all different tools. And we're adding new instructors on a monthly basis. So go to nocodealliance.org, create your free portfolio, check out some of our courses, even apply to jobs while you're there. And then for employers looking to tap into the greatest AI and no code talent, you could post a job there for free at nocodealliance.org. Immediately access over 2,000 of the world's best talents. And if that's not enough, we have a feature where you could boost your job to immediately access 5,000 more no code and AI devs throughout curated networks that we've put together with some of the best developers there. So go to nocodealliance.org to get started, and I hope to see you there. You're listening to This Week in No Code plus AI, with weekly episodes sharing the latest advancements of AI, plus exclusive interviews with founders using these tools. So without any further ado, let's get started. Welcome to This Week in No Code. I'm your host, JJ Englert, here with my co-host, David Pal, back for another week in This Week in No Code plus AI. We have some exciting news that we need to announce, plus another interview with the head of product over at Mindstudio.ai, a platform to build AI workers to automate everything for you. You just type a couple of sentences and it'll do the rest. So we have a head of product coming on. He will demo it, talk about all the use cases. But before that, let's get into the news of the week because some stuff went down this week.
All right, let's JJ. I mean, this is right up your alley.
This is the news.
This is Jay, and this is you in a niece.
We knew this was coming, and it's finally here.
Hit us with it.
Sora has been announced. You probably already know that by now. I mean, it's been announced 2 days ago. You'll hit this 3 days later. You probably still have heard it. This was a product first announced, essentially, of like Sam's like, hey, Sora's announced now.
Well, it was first leaked by MKHB or something like that.
And it's like, I've been playing with it. It's great. Yeah. And then it was, announced as part of its 12 days of launch Christmas kind of things, Hitmas. And Sora is out. It's hard though, because no one really has access to it yet. There's been an overwhelming demand to it. No one's been able to create accounts, but there's 2 different levels. So you have to either get the $50 a month level, and that's like 720p videos, limited slower generation, or the $200 a month, which is unlimited videos, 1080, and unlimited at a certain rate, and then it gets into a slower generation. What I will say from that is the video quality looks pretty good. There's still some stuff like if you see someone snowboarding in some situations, they're just like, really the body's going everywhere. But if you're actually going to like use this to create like short form content and everything, and like you translate or prompt a ton of different videos to make one video, then $200 a month is going to be a steal. If you're just like a hobbyist, like kind of want to do it here and there, it's just like that. It's a little bit more than I'd want to do for like just, a video here and there. So I was a little bit surprised by the pricing of it, but if you're going to use it, I mean, $200 a month for limited HD content creation. I mean, you look at any stock video library and it's like more than that. And it's like, this is on-demand creation of exactly what you're looking for. I mean, stock videos, like platforms and libraries, there's going to be a thing for them now, but like soon, I don't know. Like that industry is going to be attacked as well, along with many other industries.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I think video is just such another level of dimension that is the continuity, just like you're talking about with snowboarding. I think video is one of those things that it's supposed to capture your attention and hold it. And as you're watching a video and there's an AI artifact, you lose your focus. And I think that is going to be the Achilles heel for a while until it gets edited out, right? Like it just means there's
a while, meaning like 6 to 12 months, I feel like.
Yeah, I just think it will be interesting to see how like the B-roll fits into the main
movie
video and like, it has to be
how it matches, like how close.
Yeah, and how you can recreate it and tweak something and,
at the level of detail.
Like what can you really do? We'll have to see. I mean, but I think like making a video that I can use to promote a piece of software on a 10-second ad, great. I want to do that. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think it's cool. It's cooler than it is helpful at the moment.
Yeah, I think that's well said. I mean, I don't see any immediate use cases where it's just like, I can't wait. This is going to make me so much money as soon as I have access to it. I don't see that personally. I'm sure there are people that can do that with like faceless YouTube channels and all that kind of stuff. But for me, I like this is cooler than
Yeah.
practical at the moment. And so I probably won't be one of the ones spending $200 a month on this, but I would definitely be experimenting and seeing how I can use this to enhance what I'm already doing. And I will say there was a comment that you made on our last week of No Code where you essentially talked about Sam Altman might be trying to move the goalposts for AGI. And I've been hearing a lot more rumors about that and whispers and even some like pre news leaks and everything of like AGI has been accomplished. Like I feel like you might be right there from all the whispers that we're hearing in the industry.
Yeah. And Google is trying to blow up the OpenAI Microsoft, um,
Partnership.
not their exclusivity. Like
Mm,
I think OpenAI has some part agreement with Microsoft where it's only available on Azure. Google
mm,
obviously is like, hey, that's not fair.
yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, maybe all these things kind of work together and happens.
I mean, Google also had some major news this week, even bigger than Sora, in my opinion. They
Yeah.
came out with the Willow chip, and
Yeah.
it was some kind of crazy comparison. I don't remember off the top of my head. Do you? Of like what it used to be like
10 septillion years of work in 5 minutes.
septillions.
Septillion years. It's
What
like
is
a
that? What is
hundred
that?
times longer than the entire universe has.
And now a process that would have taken you that long can now be done in what 10 minutes?
5 minutes. Yeah. Less than 5 minutes.
Oh my god! Which is
Yeah. On one chip. Yeah. Versus one computer. Yeah. It's basically, um, it's a really interesting phenomenon that came from this not weird, this interesting like quantum research where when you put these qubits into a grid where basically a bit is like 1 or 0 and qubits are these like electrons. Think of electrons that have not just 1 and 0, but 1 through whatever state. When you put them in these grids, they actually perform better than bits normally do. And so it's really pretty interesting to see how this happens. We are still very far away from them being particularly useful. But they are
What do you
doing
think about,
crazy
like,
things.
the sense of, like, this Willow chip, if it has the power that people say it does, would it just be able to mine the rest of the Bitcoin that's available, at super speeds kind of thing? Like, is it unlocking that level of encryption and power that we thought things that couldn't be encrypted before now can be unencrypted?
Yeah, I think there was a concern. I remember reading about this a while ago. There is a big concern with general encryption and quantum computing, where basically things that were brute forced open, right, passwords and things like
Mhm,
that, are just done immediately, right? And so encryption
mhm.
will become a problem. But now we have quantum computing to build quantum encryption, and so maybe that is what actually ends up happening, and it's an interesting problem.
Now,
Um,
are you following the simulation theory at all and what the Willow chip has maybe disproven with this? Do you know anything about that?
no, I have not followed that.
So supposedly, from what the way that I've read it, is the people that believed in the simulation theory now with the Willow chip being live are have saying that they have disproven that this could be a thing for some reason. I can't get into that level of technicalities, but they're essentially saying if Google says this chip is doing what it could do, then it disproves this theory of simulation that people thought could have existed in some way.
Sure.
We'll have to dig into that and get back to you on that one.
Yeah.
But
Report back for
things
next
are
week.
moving fast. Things are moving fast, and yeah, this Willow chip might just be the unlock that a lot of other things needed to take another gigantic step forward, in many ways. So that's exciting. Why don't we get on to our interview with
Let's do it.
Luis, head of product at Mindstudio.ai.
Here we are. with the head of product, the one designing, the man behind the curtain, behind the AI in the Mind Studio. Luis, welcome to the show. We're going to talk about all of those things.
Thanks for having me,
Something like
guys.
that.
Welcome to the show,
Absolutely.
Luis. So Luis and I actually go way back together. We went to film school together. We had a traditional degree in creative producing in film school. We've both since entered into the tech industry, and we've kept up via LinkedIn. And the other day I was like, "Hey, Luis, what does your product actually do?" And you're like, "Well, we pass it up to you now."
Yeah, sure. We are uh, an integrated platform that allows you to build all kinds of AI workers. These AI workers can be all kinds of different things, including kind of front end no code applications that people can use. They can be run as serverless functions that you can call from any code base. They can be automated runs that do all sorts of different things, and they connect to all different kinds of services, so you can run them in conjunction with any sort of business process that you're currently using.
So,
Yeah.
for example, I'm using a no-code tool. I have this data. I can hit your API, send the data to that API. In your tool, I can spin up my own agent to do something with that data in a variety of ways, and then send it back to me once that data is enriched or improved.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Like, you can kind of think of Mind Studio as a way to build all of your intelligence components. So previously um, there are a lot of tasks that would require you to um, do a lot in your code or in your no code projects in order to get that same output. And now, in the age of AI, like, you can just have an AI worker do that work for you. So it's super convenient, and it's able to handle a lot of different things. We offer all kinds of different models. We're model agnostic. And there are a lot of capabilities. So you take that info from whatever tool you're using, pass it through Mind Studio as part of your overall orchestration, and
Hmm.
then run that output back into your whatever application, um, in order to do whatever you want with it. Yeah.
And,
Beautiful.
and are you using AI to create the agents, or we call them workers, not agents, but so we'll use, is there a difference between a worker and an agent?
Um, a worker is, I think you can think about the term AI agent is very fuzzy, right? And so we deliberately use the word AI worker because it's intended to do a piece of work for you. Where you think of like an agent, it's amorphous, like it kind of develops its own role. Where in our platform, it has a very clearly defined role for the thing that you want it to do.
And you can create multiple workers that work together on one project. And so one worker might be the researcher, one worker might be the data cleaner, and then the other worker might be the exporter or sender of all that data, correct?
Right. Yeah, that's absolutely right. So you you'll make AI workers for what we like to do when we sort of architect a solution, is we will split up all the tasks into individual AI workers that handle just that small portion of that larger orchestration. So
Okay.
yeah, that's exactly right. And it can do things like, enrich leads by scraping websites and export a JSON structure of all of the different leads that are being enriched. It can do things as simple as like proofread my blog post, right? And it's
Yeah.
like a few block thing, right? So it kind of
Huh.
tackles that full spectrum of tasks. And kind of coming back to your point, David, we do actually eat our own dog food, and we're using these AI workers to actually create features for the product itself. So we actually just released a workflow generator that is just an AI worker as part of our internal system that is able to completely create a workflow for you, and build the workflow. You just kind of describe what you want it to do. It will create a structured plan for you. You can review the plan, and then you accept it, and it will build the whole thing for you. And it's not
Yeah.
magic. You still have to know how to
Yeah.
use the platform. It's not just going to be 100% correct every time, but it's able to make some pretty powerful stuff, with some human oversight.
One of the things you said that it can do is it can use other tools and platforms. How many of these things are already integrated and available. So, for example, I'm thinking about I read someone online, they were talking about their lead enrichment and cold email process. They basically take a lead, name, email, maybe a job, and they ask Perplexity to go search the internet for some details. They take all of that response and drop that in Chat GPT to summarize it and find some interesting tidbit to write a cold email prompt, and then take that and then draft an email based on a bunch of other things. And so I could see how there would be all these agents. One is the researcher, one is the stand-up comedian writing cool, interesting things. The next one's like
You.
the email drafter. Yeah, I'm taking my job. Then the email drafter and the proofreader, right? And like these are all steps. How many like the Perplexity call is that I'm setting up an API call in the platform, or are there things already integrated?
No, yeah. I mean, we're model agnostic, so we have access to all kinds of different AI models, including Perplexity, models from Anthropic. The new Amazon Nova models are going to be released later today on the platform. So we keep up to date with all of the largest providers. And so in that specific instance, you might actually only need one AI worker where you call, we call them blocks like in our workflow, right? Where you have Perplexity perform the specific task and have GPT-4o summarize it and have, whatever
Yeah,
Claude Haiku like output the final structure of the output that you're looking for. And
yeah,
and when you're
interesting.
thinking about integrations, it's important to think about a lot of folks think like, oh, um, you actually need to have the integration inside of the workflow itself when you're connecting to all these other services. But really, it's the opposite way around. Like the whole point is you build Mind Studio as this small component that lives in your larger orchestration, right? So you might be building something on Bubble, or you might be using Zapier or Make, or all of these different automation platforms. And you can call Mind Studio via API, send in whatever data you want through that workflow, and then bring it back to that larger
Oh,
orchestration to do
interesting.
whatever you
Yeah.
want with it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I want to get into a demo, but before I do that, I'd love to just learn a little bit more about you. You haven't always been in the AI space because you were with me in film school. So like in a 5 minute thing, like tell us who you are and how kind of you got here.
Yeah, that is a that's a fun story because yeah, JJ, you and I went to film school together. We're in the same creative producing class. After film school, obviously tried to take the traditional Hollywood route and go into the film industry, make a bunch of stuff, right? That we can like we can showcase to people. I moved to LA, lived there for about a year and a half, worked at like a major digital media publisher, um, and then realized like it kind of I loved making movies, and uh, I I found myself like as it started turning into a job, I started loving it less and less. And I don't know how to describe that, but I felt like it was time to make a change. So I left. I started doing just random projects, right? I would go out and put my name out there and be like, "Hey, whatever you need. Do you need videography, you need content, whatever, right?" I was like a content pro. And I met I got contacted by some other folks that we went to school with. Sean Thielen, he was starting a company with our co-founder Dimitri, who was at Google for a number of years and was the CTO of MySpace Music. Like these two, Sean's an incredibly talented coder, and he was posting to Hacker News, and they were just starting this thing, right?
Yeah.
And
Did you
I
say
was
MySpace?
yeah, yeah, he was a CTO of MySpace Music for a while. He,
Cool.
formed, yeah, Dimitri's a really awesome, person, and he has a really cool background. He ended up, creating, one of the early competitors to YouTube, called Veo,
Okay.
and then, later on went on to be the CTO of MySpace Music, and, yeah, so he just has it's really cool to be able to work with him directly and get to just learn. He's an incredible product person, has an awesome product sense, and so just being able to see how he thinks about building product has been
Mhm.
really impactful for me as we've been building these various products out. And I've been working with them for a number of years. I think it's good, just past 8 years now. We've had a number of products, including a product called Metaverse that was like an AR platform where we love building platforms, right? So this was a platform that let you build augmented reality experiences. Think like Pokemon Go
Mm.
for anything.
Cool.
We then went on to build a platform in the creator economy that allowed people to create all sorts of digital storefronts for their social media.
Mhm.
That company was acquired by Linktree, and then we started um, building Mindstudio.
Okay,
We found
cool.
we kind of Dimitri and Sean, our co-founders, they have an incredible vision, and they're able to really um, see things like that are way far out. They obviously, like, AI had just started picking up some traction in the zeitgeist, even though it's been around for a long time. And yeah, because they love building platforms, they saw this layer of abstraction um, in the market that was missing, and so uh, we all decided to go in and start building Mind Studio.
Very cool. Yeah, there's so many ways that you can use technology like this. One simple way that I use it is No Code Alliance has a job board. And so every day we have a scraper that goes out there and scrapes jobs online. And then I feed it to one of my workers where it's like, is this job relevant to our platform or not? And they're
Right.
like kind of decision maker of like, yes, it is, then it will pass on and make it, or no, it's not good for her, and they won't. And so like before that was a manual process where it was like the job was in the queue and I had a yes or no it. Now it's all done with this AI worker and it's doing really good. And so there's so many ways you can use technology like that. It gets me really excited.
Yeah, it's really exciting because we're always spotting all kinds of use cases that we never would have expected to find. Um, there are folks that are using this as to help them with HR and hiring, right? Where
Sure.
they're using their AI worker to check for to make sure that all of their language is diverse and inclusive, so that they can uh, access a broader variety of candidates.
Mm,
They're using their AI workers to validate all of the candidates that come through their pipeline to make sure they're actually a good fit. And if they're not, these companies have AI workers that will skill match and say, oh, actually, this worker is not great for this role, but you have this role that's open that they actually might be a better fit in, right? Um,
interesting.
yeah,
You got to imagine that whole hiring pipeline is going to be workers getting like the whole phase is going to be like 7 different workers, 10 different workers. Like, do you are you hit all these things, and then if yes, you get to like the human, but like building that funnel of AI agents, just like going through and evaluating could cut 1,000 applicants down to 10 really high quality ones and save a lot of time.
yeah. And it is a time save, but it's also, we have to you can kind of get into this like doomy gloom area where it's like if it's all AI operated, like it doesn't actually work, right? It's very important to have that human oversight and human in the loop as part of this process in
Sure.
order for you to get the best output possible for whatever task you're trying to do. And so that's always been at the forefront of how we try to build the product. We don't believe in like a black box where you like put in a bunch of stuff and you don't know what happens, and then you just get this output and you have to trust the output exactly, um, or
Mhm.
not, right? We
Yeah.
want to give all of our users and the folks building on Mind Studio complete control as to every step, and be able to build in, uh, interaction points for that human supervision to take place.
Mhm. Very cool.
Yeah.
David,
It's
should
so
we get
interesting
into a
work.
demo?
Yeah, I'd love to see some stuff. Are you gonna build something, or can we ask you to build formally?
Well,
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I've got a couple of little slides to kind of illustrate Mind Studio at a high level, and then I'll go in and actually build something, in just a few minutes, and we can dive into a bunch of different features that I think no code builders would find valuable. Um,
great.
and yeah, you guys can feel free to just like stop me, interrupt me, ask questions,
We
whatever you
will.
want. Whatever you're curious about, I'm
We have
also
to.
curious about what you're curious about. So
Yeah.
yeah, it'll be great. So let me
Wonderful.
go ahead and I will share my screen. See if I can get this working here. Can I share my
I
I
tell
have
you,
to
as
share
a
my
solo
folder here.
founder, like for a lot of small, like little indie stuff, I love the idea that I have workers that I could just access to do a bunch of manual things for me to make, my automations smarter, more efficient, and I don't need to do it. Like it's like a next level unlock of like, all right, you could build with no code or low code. That's saving you a lot of time. But then when you need to do like this manual, you scraping plus cleaning the data plus the outreach, all that kind of stuff, it's like, how do I then automate that or bring that to another time save? And AI workers have been a really good solution for me.
Totally. Even when you think about tasks that require sort of like fuzzy computing, right? Like something as simple as content moderation.
Yeah.
If you were trying to program content moderation, there'd be a whole list of of things that you would need to build, right? Like here's a list of words that we want to filter out. Like here's
Yeah.
a certain IP address, whatever. Like there's a lot of checks, right? And even then you might not get a perfect filter, but now AI can kind of be like, is this spam or not? And the AI is just like, yeah, it's spam. And if it's spam, you just remove it, right?
Yeah.
It's good at doing that sort of fuzzy logic computing.
For all of you out there listening, if you are in the market for any kind of software development needs, check out Studio No Code. It's our agency that's built on Bubble experts with nearly a decade of experience building all kinds of Bubble apps: marketplace, social network, payroll company, catering business, data room, ad tech, legal tech. We got a little bit of everything. We've seen it all, and that helps us translate all of our knowledge into your app to build the best product for your customers. We built it professionally, we built it to be secure, and we built it to scale. And we're going to do all these things on time and on budget. So if you are looking for help getting off the ground, getting something to market, or anything in between, give us a call or an email or a carrier pigeon or whatever you want. Studio-nocode.com. We'll probably be there.
So yeah, let me quickly go through just like mine's obviously our company is named Mind Studio. My name's Luis. I'm head of product. We already covered this. Mind Studio is an integrated platform that lets you build and operate AI workers. So our full stack allows you to obviously build, test, evaluate, fine tune. You deploy these to various places, and then you see them in production where you're operating them. You're observing how they interact with the things that you're asking them to interact with, analyzing things, like your usage costs and like your latency and all of that stuff. And you can integrate this everywhere. We have a management platform for all of it. And so you can kind of think of Mind Studio as being this thing, this kind of like graphical representation, but it's able to take in inputs from all sorts of various places, be that intelligence component, and then you have all of these AI workers to match whatever sort of jobs that you need done or tasks that you need done.
And and just to look at this list. So here in this list, if you don't mind going back one
Oh yeah,
slide, uh, we have like ClickUp and Discord and Zapier and Bubble and Stripe and Monday and all these different things. These are feeding the inputs. There's probably endpoints that we're using in Mind Studio to listen in on these responses. These are like webhooks almost. Is there a way to send information back?
yeah. So the way that it would work is you would, in your larger orchestration, something like Zapier or Make.com, you'd be able to connect to, whatever service that you'd like. You then run Mind Studio via an API request where you would send in all of that information that you're pulling via, MailChimp or Discord or wherever,
Yeah.
right? And then you'd get that output, and that output can be just plain text. It can be a structured JSON output, kind of whatever you need it to be in order for you to use it later on in your orchestration.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
So those listeners are actually coming from a service like Zapier, Mind Studio, your own application, right? Um, so an AI worker can be deployed in a number of ways. Like we talked about a bit earlier, they can be these AI powered applications that people actually use on Mind Studio. So you might have like these applications that generate, and you can, chat bots and things like that, things that humans interact directly with, right? You might have automations that run on a schedule. So every day at 9 a.m., this is actually going to be, what I'm going to build for you in a bit. But every day at 9 a.m., like scrape a website and provide me a summary of, AI trending news and email it to me every
Yeah.
morning so I can see what's going on in the industry, right? Um, these things can be intelligence components for larger orchestrations and automations platforms. So we have all of these can be run via an API request, and we have some apps directly built into automation platforms like Zapier and Make. So you can just look for Mindstudio, run a workflow, and then have the AI processing just live within your larger orchestration. And then lastly, you can run any of these in your own code base. So we have an NPM package. I know this is for no code, but for those of you that do no code plus code, you can do this as well, right? You can call all of these AI workers as functions. So you can think of something like is comment span, and run it within your own application whenever you'd like. You call it via an API request.
Cool.
And to date, we have over 100,000 AI workers deployed across all types of places, right? Large enterprises, government entities, small businesses, solopreneurs, everyone is using these AI workers for their own unique needs. And that I think is one of the key value props of this is like you can build anything you want, and there's no, you know, there's no real limit, right? Like if there is, we end up building it into the platform. But there's not like a restriction of like what types of applications. The limitation is really your own creativity when it comes to this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so
this is
here,
pretty
let me.
open-ended. It's,
It,
infrastructure to be able to host and run and maintain these things, and I assume also monitor these actions as well, and not just, like in the limits of Zapier before they had endpoints or, even in Bubble, right? You have to do it all yourself.
yeah, that's exactly right. And so, yeah, let's go ahead and build one here.
Yeah.
It's gonna take a couple of minutes. It's pretty straightforward. You will create an account, and once you create an account, you'll be taken to your main workspace, and this workspace is going to show you all of the different AI workers that you've created. If you don't have any, you'll probably be presented with some sort of getting started video, but
Sure.
you can quickly create a new AI worker just by clicking on the create button. And here you're kind of taken into our editor, and this is going to appear blank. And this is intentional because it's like a blank project, it's like a blank document, right? But we have several different tools that can help you actually create the whole workflow for you. Now, I know this can look like a lot at a first glance. The editor is pretty much made up of two key pieces. There's the Explorer here on the left, and this is kind of like your file structure. It's where all of the resources used in your AI worker exist. So this is things like data sources, which are files that you can upload and are vectorized that you can call upon. Typically, you'd use something like this if you need to have large amounts of data, but there's a cap on how much context you can actually bring into the AI worker, and so you can chunk that out and have it call only when necessary, right? You can have custom functions that execute both JavaScript and Python, and we also have an AI assistant that allows you to describe what you want it to do, and it will try its best to code a custom function for you, so you don't necessarily need to know JavaScript or Python to actually get the thing that you want to build. There are user inputs that are kind of like Google Forms style input fields. This is really only used if you're planning on using this as kind of like the front end application. Typically, these inputs are going to come from your own interfaces, right?
Sure.
That'll come from like your orchestration, automation platforms, or your custom application that you're building in the no-code platform itself. And then there's the workflows. This is where these are sequential actions that you set up inside of your AI worker that perform, one after another, depending on what you want to build.
Yeah.
And so you can see here where
Quickly, let me For the listeners that are just audio only, we're seeing the inside of Mindstudio. It has like a code editor feel to it. It's not. It's I think it's more code than I was expecting. Quite frankly, I'm interested to see what these next steps are for you, like getting this worker live now. But it does feel like it's there's a lot of code in there, and so you essentially each step or each worker is created with code. You have AI agents to help you create those steps, et cetera, if you don't write the code yourself, but you're using code as the method to create these workers.
No, you're not. And I'll show you in just a second. I can see how that would be. Uh, I can see why you'd think that because I just described like custom functions,
Yeah.
and like JavaScript and Python and all that stuff. But actually, the main place where you're going to be building this is this automations tab here. And from here, you're going to
Interesting.
be adding all sorts of blocks
Now
that
we
can
see
do all
like a
sorts of
drag
different
and
things,
drop
right?
interface almost where you could have these blocks where you add before and after, and each block has pre-built actions to it kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And these blocks kind of correlate to various types of AI services like
Yeah, so we see
generating
like
text
generate
or
text, generate image. We went from like in like one click over from system prompts to automation. We went from like a difficulty of like 10 to like 5 or 4 right now.
yeah.
All right, keep going. This is going
And
good.
and to kind of talk about the system prompt a bit, this is a prompt that you'd send to an AI worker. So it's all done in using natural language. So there's no code on this page either. It's just the instructions that you give to the AI worker using plain English,
This is the
right?
Oh, you're writing
context
plain English there.
this
That
is the
looks so much
Yeah,
like a
context.
code editor. I'm thinking
Yeah.
that's gonna expect code.
I know, right?
Yeah,
Um,
But
interesting.
it is
that's the
it's the
thing is
context, right? Like when all of these processes are happening, the AI processes, you're giving this the context in the same way that you would in a chat GPT,
Yeah,
like
and
a
system
yeah,
system
prompt, that
prompt.
exactly.
makes sense that it's gonna be your prompt now, but, like, first thought, I was like, code goes there.
Yeah. So let's actually use AI to just build this whole thing for us. Like
Okay.
let's it's going to build out our system prompt, our automations. If required, it's going to code the function required for us. We have a couple of generation tools that you'll notice here at the bottom.
Yeah.
One is generate workflow and the other is generate prompt. And so depending on what you need, you can click on those tools, type in what you want, and it will generate the things for you. I'm going to click
Sure.
on this generate workflow control here at the bottom left of the system prompt tab here. And when you click on that, you're basically given this like this
Yeah.
interface where you describe what you want. And so what I'm going to be building for you guys is an AI worker that scans, let's say The Verge, every single morning, finds all of the AI news articles, summarizes them, gives me links, and then actually sends me an email every morning of like my AI news digest,
Sure.
right? So let's go ahead and in the workflow description, I'll just type in what I want.
Sure.
Every morning, we'll say scrape. And let's hop into theverge.com so that I can get the URL here. Scrape theverge.com. And then one, extract links from the scrape. And then two, create a summary of all links of all articles related to AI. There we go. And then three, email the summary to
Your
I'll
email
put my
address.
email in there.
Yep.
Now, what would have happened if you had like not used this language? I could tell as you're writing this, you're kind of self-filtering. Like you knew to put a numbered order. Is that kind of part of this requirement, like learning how it works, or is that just
This
this is
is
just how you would do it?
Yeah, that's a good question. This is kind of how I think about building AI workers. So with my knowledge of and how actually a lot of no code builders are thinking about building things, right? You kind of have this sense of systems thinking.
Yeah.
Um, you can use natural language. So like let's say I just delete all of this, right? and just use scrapetheverge.com and send a, daily digest email to
Your email.
my email, right?
Yeah.
Like, it can probably tackle this and come up with something similar, right? I typically like to be very explicit when interacting with AI, right? And I think this has just come from uh, playing around with a lot of AI tools. Like, the more detail that you can provide and the more structure you can provide, the better output that you end up getting. But
Right.
it typically does a pretty good job with whatever you give it, right? So
It
without
will do
having that
better
1, 2, 3
than,
structure, let's just
yeah.
try this and see what happens, right?
Yeah, no, sure. This is the same as if you were trying to give instructions to a developer, right? Like,
Right.
whenever you have anything vague or many degrees of freedom, sorry, those are all of the things that might go wrong, right? These are all these paths the logic might take you. The
Yeah.
more descriptive you are, the more specific you are, the better the instructions are, and the better it'll fall.
Yeah, exactly. Like, the way I like to describe it to people is, imagine you're giving instructions to a personal assistant, right? They have access to everything that you have access to. They're just slightly less skilled than you are at the thing that you're doing, but they're here to help you work faster, right? Like,
Yeah.
what instructions would you provide a real person that's acting as your personal assistant?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
What's interesting is, as we move from engineering into like coding with natural language, becoming a good writer is becoming more important because like the way you can communicate clear ideas specific and with specifications and kind of enough detail, it is what's going to be driving good prompts and bad prompts.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're a
I
high level
could
communicator, you can do a lot with AI these days.
Yeah. That's honestly like where kind of project management skills, system thinking skills, these are more soft skills about how, not necessarily the in the weeds, like, building of the thing, but thinking about the architecture. How is this thing going to work? All of that mental, uh, skill set is gonna come in handy as you build out, whatever you're building out in
Right.
Mindstudio, or even, this applies to really any no code software. Like, all of the same principles still apply. Like, if you're building an app in Bubble, or you're building an orchestration inside of Zapier, things like that, right? Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, let me go ahead and we'll finish filling out this modal. So there are a couple of ways that workflows can be triggered to run. The first is a manual run where you click a button and it runs. The second is on a schedule. And the third is via API. Now, we
Sure.
want it to happen every morning, so we're going to use an automatic schedule. I realized that you couldn't see my selector, but
Mhm.
it now says on an automatic schedule. Then
Mhm.
you can add any other considerations here. So I'm not going to have any considerations. This is just like additional context you can provide. And then
Sure.
we click on generate, right? And at this point, it'll take, about a minute, but what it's doing is it's coming up with the process. Well, let's try this one more time.
Like every live demo ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, preaching to the choir here. Okay, so we put every morning. I'm glad this isn't live, and we can edit this to the point when I hit that generate button, right?
There we go.
Yeah.
It happens every time. Every live demo.
Okay, every morning, scrapeverge.com and create a daily digest of all AI news. Okay, on an automatic schedule. Okay, we have all of this filled out and we're clicking on the generate button. And what it's doing right now is it is generating our entire workflow for us. It's gonna, before it actually builds the thing, it's gonna come up with a plan and it's going to structure that plan. It'll lay out kind of all of the pieces required in order to build a workflow like this. Um, so it's doing a lot of thinking behind the scenes. And as you start to use the workflow generator more and more, you might also pick up some of that systems thinking that we've been talking about. So you'll think, oh, in order to build this, I need to scrape the web. I need to use AI to process that raw, captured input. I need to then have some sort of another AI to kind of build and format the summary for me. And then I need the last step to email to my inbox, right? Like we instinctively as no code builders kind of think through that process. But those are those skills that I'm talking about that are important to think through. And as you start using the generate workflow tool, you'll be picking those skills up more and more each time you end up using it, because you'll be able to see that structure being built right before your eyes by an AI worker, right?
Yeah, and you want to think about it in the sense of like every little task should have its own worker kind of thing, right? Like you have that whole organized the content, and then another one to just send the content. Like really break it up, so each worker can have their own context and action, right?
Yes and no. It really depends on the specific task that you're trying to tackle. So in this
Okay.
case, this is all going to be one AI worker that does all of this for us, and each
Okay.
individual. So like the AI worker is not like send email. The AI worker is daily news digest
Okay.
worker that does
I
all
got
these
you.
things, right?
But if
So
you
it's
wanted to then turn it into a podcast, you might have Daily Digest as step one, script generator, and then AI avatar maker. And like the way
you could just keep adding
I
to it.
would
Right.
think about like this worker is a world-class employee at this one thing. They probably don't have skills in these other two things. They're good researchers. They're not good writers. They wouldn't have written the article. They can summarize it. And then similarly, they can't perform the article, but they can write the script for the performer, right? The same way, like on a film set, you have the writer and the director or the actor. You don't have, it's not always the same person. Really rarely.
Yep.
Sure.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So what are we seeing now? We see like on the left-hand side, we see a really descriptive prompt and then what is on the right side there?
Yeah. So essentially what the AI workflow
Interesting.
generator has built for us is an architecture plan and a proposal of how it intends to build this thing.
Okay.
So the architecture plan outlines what it wants the system prompt to include, all of the different workflow steps, all of the variables that are required in order to get this done, a general structure of the workflow, any custom functions that it needs to code, and, in this case, an email output
Wow.
format.
That's a lot with just one prompt and you're looking at in the action proposal, it shows you each step that it's going to create to process each step of this.
Yeah,
And then I assume like that's just a proposal. If you want to like proceed with it, then you can go into those steps and modify them further or add more or whatever.
that's exactly right. So
Yeah.
we review the proposal. It gives us the exact blocks that it's using, the system
Beautiful.
prompt that it's using.
We're gonna get
And
so lazy as humans. Like all we did was type in 2 sentences and AI just did so much work for us. Like how much lazier can we get really?
Yeah. It
Wow.
really does. It does feel magical when this is generated for you, and then you click accept and build, and it starts actually assembling all of this. But it is important to keep in mind that just because it's built, everything that is
Sure.
generated by AI should have some sort of human supervision, right?
Sure.
So this will lay out the general structure. It's important that we, as the builders of this thing, test it out, make sure it's working, make modifications. But that's exactly what you're saying, JJ, where like it built the whole thing for us, and then we can double click into it
Yeah.
and figure out what's working and what isn't working.
I mean,
right?
and really use plain text to like say, hey, I have this thing that I do every day. It's laborious and it's boring, but it helps me. So yeah, I'm just going to tell you, go to this website, extract all the information and just send it to me in an email one day. That's all I'm going to say. And then this is going to go off and build it for you. And then you can sit back and just reap the email that you get each day from that digest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
But anyone could do that. Like anyone that knows how to write English can, or any language can do that, right? I
Yeah.
mean,
All you need to do is be a good communicator, right? Like,
yeah,
and even
yeah,
then, like, you can write something that we wrote 2 sentences and it's building this whole thing for us, and
right,
it knows what we want, it knows what we're bringing into it, it knows what we want out of it, and it's able to navigate through a bunch of ambiguity that honestly a lot of regular people who you'd give this task to might not be able to figure out right off the bat.
yeah,
So
yeah. It's
yeah,
well said. It's amazing how accessible all of this is getting with the help of AI. Of just like, you could do stuff like this in a lot of automation platforms, but you just need to know how to like think through like each step yourself and create those steps and then find the action that would make sense and then parse that and format it. And there's so much work, but you can all do it now. But now with this, it's literally you type in the 2 sentences and AI will just do all that for you automatically. And so 2 years ago, you could do it with Zaps and everything. Not AI as much, but now it's just like each step is getting more accessible, more accessible, more accessible. Um, it's really exciting.
it is. We launched this last week and we were like, did we just run into a huge unlock for actually was this Monday? The Monday this feature came out, we were like, this is like a big step in terms of the development of and capabilities of the platform.
Yeah,
Because previously you would have had to write all this out yourself, right? Again, kind of going back to the system prompt, like notice the text here, even though it has like a a monospaced font, it
yeah.
is all plain English,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
it does look a
Um,
little bit like code, but it's not. It's just English in each step of like the assistant's going to do this, the role and the purpose is this, the identification guidelines is this, and then you can go in there and modify that prompt however you want.
yeah,
And then yeah,
and the other thing to note is um, we use markdown formatting for a lot of tasks. So if you want, especially the outputs of the AI, you can have it format things in the way you want them. And Markdown is a very simple language to understand. It's just using these kind of hashtag marks to describe headers and dashes for bullet points. It's like Discord uses this, right? Like
yeah,
in their chat, it's all the same stuff, right? So let's take a look. We saw the system prompt. We can now see that the whole automation workflow was built out for us.
hmm
And so diving into each step, it is going to, format the current date, scrape the Verge homepage.
and you could, as you
Um,
click on each step, a property editor opens up on the right hand side, kind of exposing either the function, the configurations, the outputs, the puts needed for each step.
yeah, that's exactly right. So this is
No, yeah.
based on whatever you click on, this right panel will change. And you can see the name of the actual block that's being used, but it's actually renamed all of the blocks for us to
Right.
describe what that step does. Uh,
Nice.
So
Okay.
this one here, like why, I guess, and this is where, maybe this is just knowing the platform. It says start and then format current date. We've asked it to run this thing daily, which it does pretty close, right? We didn't give it a time in this prompt here, 8
hmm
a.m. Eastern time. And then it formats the date. Well, is that, why does it format the date? What do you think what it thought to do here?
yeah, look, I mean, this is just logic that it's come up with. That's why it's important for us as the actual workflow builders to be like, we don't actually need to format the date. Like this,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
glad you built this AI, but like, I'm going to delete this block from our entire workflow,
hmm
right? Like
Yep.
it's totally unnecessary.
Okay.
All I
So you
want
just
you to do,
deleted it and everything is still going and
Just
connected and
continues.
yeah, you just
yeah,
continue.
it's all linear. So it's all still connected. You obviously see like when I hover over each of these blocks, there are these nodes.
Yeah.
And so you have the ability to like drag a node
Oh,
out and
nice.
connect it to different things depending on how you want that flow to proceed.
Cool.
So here we have a scrape URL block. It's already input the website for us. And we have, a couple different providers, including Firecrawl, which I really like using. It provides like very um, in-depth scrape. And then the other thing to note is you want to make sure this is all configured properly, right? Like this is missing. an output variable that probably isn't used. And luckily we have this errors tab that can tell us, okay,
Right.
yes, the AI built this thing out, but it's probably not going to work because we're missing a lot of stuff. Like it set up a bunch of stuff. It's not perfect, right? And it's still capable of making really good stuff. Like this is another reason that I go back to kind of laying out that structure with the 1, 2, 3. We tried it out just with one sentence, and so it's trying to do a lot with ambiguity, right?
Mhm.
Um, so here we have a block where it is processing all of this scraped content, and this is scraped content is the output that we should have here, right? So I'm going to add that variable in here, scraped content. We've just
I
fixed
see.
the bug, right?
Yep.
Um, we have the format digest, right? Where we have it's using some handlebars formatting.
To show your
Like,
variables.
yeah, using all different kinds of variables. So digest date, we actually have a variable that we can use called current date, and so that's just going to say this is the digest from today, right? It will, in this case, it says it found certain articles, and then it's having each article run through the headline, a summary, a URL, and the publish date for that particular article. This stuff is probably not necessary. It's kind of building this out for us. And so what I think might be a bit better is we're going to change this entire section here, and we're going to delete all of this. We just gotten rid of a bunch of variables that it
And again,
created,
this is
right?
all in plain text. You're just adjusting text and you're adjusting the variables in the text. And that's essentially the prompts that are going to each of these AI tools that whatever one you're calling.
Yeah.
And it kind of it's so simple, but I haven't really used variables much in my prompts. But like seeing
Mhm.
how the AI built the prompt with the variables in it and now seeing how it's used in each of these steps, it makes so much sense. And it's
Yeah,
almost like a learning in itself there.
totally. All a variable is just a saved value that you're bringing downstream in your workflow, right? And so there
Yeah.
will be some sections here, like you can see we have each of these steps has an output variable name, so it will process this, and then we can name what the name of the variable we want to save it as, so we can use it later in the workflow. So we have this variable called AI articles, and then it is then going to be using that AI articles variable downstream. So in this case, we're going to add it into the format digest, right? And so create markdown formatted digest using the following template. And then we can add a line that says this is the content. Uh, and we can include the variable here, right? Well,
Yes.
using these double
Yeah.
curly braces.
Yeah.
So now we've fixed all of the things that the when the AI built the workflow that we needed to fix,
Mhm.
right? It's going to check to
All
see
the
if
errors are
there
gone.
are articles. Yeah, all the errors are gone. Um, and then it will send the notification. It'll check to see if there's actually articles related to AI. Um, so
Now,
that
this is
array
where
is
the
empty
sandbox
or
comes
not.
in, right? Because now you can run this and see the results of it right in the sandbox.
Yeah, exactly. So now we have the run workflow block, and we can add, it added my other email, the email that I'm currently signed into rather than,
Mm.
my work email. Um, but we can have it, this end block allows us to return that data either via JSON structured output, or in this case, we enabled a notification that allows us to send an email. You can send this to Slack if you wanted to. And yeah, now we can preview it, right? We have this preview button where we can run it in our debugger. And our debugger is a super powerful tool that basically goes through each of these step by step, tells you exactly what's happening inside of this workflow,
Mhm.
and then, you know, at that point, you can determine the latency of it. You can look at the cost of running this workflow, all of this stuff, right? So you can see here, it finished scraping the URL. That took about, 10 seconds. I don't think it actually took that long, but that's how much it marked here. It's now generating um,
Yeah, I love me a
it's
good
processing
debugger.
all of these
Those things
articles.
are worth every freaking penny, man.
Yeah. And this is just the bottom bar. You can actually take a look at the full debugger by going into this debugger tab. So
Okay.
once this run is complete, I'll actually open this up and we'll be able to look back on every single run that we've gone through for this particular AI worker. Now, it might be taking slightly longer than normal because I am streaming to the web right now, and so it's partially just like my internet. Um,
Is
we'll
that an
see.
option if I was running, through Mindstudio? If I was running workflows and I needed to juice it up a little bit, like, is there a plan to, turn a knob somewhere and add more power? Insert Tim, the Toolman Taylor grunt, more
Oh,
power?
I love Tim, the Toolman Taylor.
Yeah, I will say, I
That's just such a sound from the 90s. It's so good. It's just like-
I've been
Yeah.
rewatching that show a little bit. Good reference.
I will say that using Mindstudio, we kind of have two plans, right? We have our free community plan, which is a super generous plan. And for anything that's kind of missing in terms of your current expectations of the platform, we have a business plan where, we work with you one-on-one. So if you wanted a knob that said like, give me more compute, right? We can build that for you, and we can create
Cool.
a plan that's completely tailored around your needs. So
Cool. So you just have two plans, free and business.
yeah, it's free. It's free plus usage, right? So we offer 10,000 free runs. It's completely free to use and run workflows, and then you just pay for the usage of the actual AI models, right? And then we have the business plan where that's for enterprises that are looking to potentially have a private cloud deployment, or like they want additional features like a white label version of Mindstudio and things like that, right? They want unlimited runs, unlimited team members, like all of these like enterprise specific features. But
Yeah.
everything else is completely available, free to use, free to get started. You just pay for the usage of the actual AI models. So
Killer.
yeah, let me
Cool.
go ahead and just refresh this page and we can take a look at what happened here. It looks like it's still running. So we'll see here. Let me
Probably a
go back.
lot of things to analyze.
Yeah, right. Let me open up a. So here's one I built earlier today to test out this demo before we actually hopped online. So it's kind of like, here's the cake out of the oven,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
This is the in this workflow, right? It's structured a little bit differently, but it's scraping the URL. It's making sure that there was an actual scrape that happened. If not, it will display an error. It then extracts all the URLs, and then it creates that news digest for me.
Yeah.
And you can see here, if we go into the debugger, we can see all of the individual actions of this AI worker. So it scraped the URL, it checked for logic and routed it in the right way. It processed all of that content, and you can see all of the outputs, right? You can see how all of the variables are changing over time here on the right-hand side. You can really get a good sense of like what model is being used in that specific step. How much does it cost? In this case, I'm an admin, so it's not costing me anything. But you'll see all of these stats, how long it took to execute that specific step. And then you can see like kind of a high level summary of the entire run. So this last run took 28.05 seconds to execute. And then when we actually look at the output of this thing, if I go into, maybe I'll just, let me hop off and open the email summary up so you can see kind of the end result of this thing.
Sure.
Okay, so you can see that the run completed successfully from the AI news curator. It took all these stories from The Verge, gives you, the headline that I've asked it to format, a summary and how it relates to AI, and then a link to the article that you can open up and see the content for. So yeah,
Nice.
there's a lot that this can do, right? Like this is like one one use case, and they're out of countless use cases, and there are a bunch of different tools. I definitely encourage folks to play around and yeah, join our Discord. Hit us up on support if you have any questions. Like our support, we constantly get praise for because we have just an amazing support team that is here to help you build the things that you want to build, and help you um, just like make stuff and learn more about the platform.
Yeah.
So
It's
yeah,
incredible. What do you think? So you guys just released the workflow AI builder this week. Y- Quickly, what do you think the future looks like at Mind Studio?
yeah. I mean, we are in a place where we are looking and seeing across the board all kinds of different use cases. What I anticipate is there will be more adoption as of AI workers in larger orchestrations, like kind of running behind the scenes. Previously, where we noticed that there are a lot of people making sort of chat body type things, but I actually think the industry as a whole, like that's not the main interface that we should be interacting with AI with. Like this thing is meant to be infrastructure, right? It's meant to be an intelligence component of a larger orchestration. And you should be able to create an AI worker on an interface, set it, and then a human shouldn't have to interact with it unless there's something wrong, right? So you're
Yeah.
testing, you're observing, making sure it's working. And so that's kind of how we envision folks using Mind Studio in the future, and how they're currently using it. So just kind of expanding uh, on that current hypothesis, right?
If one of our listeners wanted to get started with Mind Studio, where do they go? How do they get started and up and running?
Sure, yeah. If you are interested in building your own AI workers, you can get started completely for free. Just go to Mindstudio.ai, sign up for an account, and you can start building right away. We offer on a first sign up a $5 free usage credit. So there's no risk for you to kind of try out, play around, and see if you can get an AI worker running. And then beyond that, all of the models are insanely cheap to run. So like you can still kind of play around on your own, and see what you
What
can
do you think
build.
would be
So
like say, I have a couple AI workers spun up and it's doing basic tasks, kind of like what we did today. Is that like $5, $10 a month to run, $20, $30? What do you think is like an average kind of bill there?
I mean, if you're running this worker that we built here every single day for a month, you'll
Yeah.
maybe spend like $1,
Okay.
$2,
Yeah.
Okay. So
right?
it'd
Like
be, yeah.
uh,
Way cheaper
running
than
an AI
hiring a
worker is like
researcher.
0.00025 cents, right? For per million tokens. Like
Okay.
it's basically nothing, right?
Very good. All right.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Luis, it's been a pleasure. It's always a pleasure talking to you, but thank you for coming on the podcast. We will direct our listeners that way. I know I'm going to go that way myself.
I'm gonna
Thanks
go
for
play with
coming
some
on.
stuff.
And always feel free to come back if you have any exciting news, the IPO or anything else. We're here.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you so much for having me, and it was a pleasure chatting with you guys.
Yeah.
Always.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
So I saw that as soon as we saw him pull up the demo, I was like, are we in a code editor? And I've
Yeah.
never seen this before. So I was like, we're in a code editor. I see something that looks like libraries on the left-hand side, some kind of code editor in the middle, and a sandbox on the
Just
right.
text.
And then all of a sudden, yeah, and then we're like, is this a code editor? And they're like, he's like, no, it's not. And we're like, what? And it's like, you just write text here. You don't write any code. And then you go to the next stage, which is the action editor. And that looks very much like Zapier, where you have each step and you can go into it. And then
Yeah,
we
with
built that entire
blocks and
workflow
steps, yeah.
without writing any code, all just plain text, just talking to prompts or prompting, similar to what we all do with AI daily. So level of difficulty seems like a 4 out of 10, 5 out of 10 of like, I feel like I could get in there and start building just about most of what I want. And then the harder, complex stuff, I'd probably need a little bit of help to get there.
Yeah.
But like basic, uh, daily runs, basic AI workflow workers, abstracting data, cleaning that data, sending that data seems like all stuff that most of our listeners would be able to do.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what it was like building steps individually. It does seem really easy to create the block first pass, like the first draft of things. It will be interesting to see uh, what happens as you edit things and how easy that process is.
Yeah.
I want to play with it. And
I'm
now
real good
they're
with it.
all like there are a bunch of things to play with now, and so I feel like we need a really simple test scenario to try recreate on all of these like AI agent
Yeah.
workflow
What I would
tools and
love to,
compare them.
maybe like we could find a way to like in the demo in the show, we build
Yeah.
something that our listeners could text or email to get a live result to see that thing actually working like that. That could be cool.
Yeah.
Hmm. Well, if you guys have any thoughts, let us know. Otherwise, thank you for tuning into This Week in No Code plus AI. We'll be back with another one next week. We have a very special one. Who is coming on next week,
Oh, I
David?
know who it is.
Oh, I know who it is too. A big time entrepreneur who has built a massive business on no code, coming to share his secrets next week. So we'll see you then. But otherwise, have
See
a
you
good one,
next
guys.
week in No Code.
See you next week in no code.